Hi everybody, it's Adrian Ross here.
Yes, and Bridget. Hello.
And we're sitting in the little room just off our bedroom in our new house. And it's really very cosy, isn't it?
Because we've got people staying with us. Yeah.
And this is 149 in Sounding the Shallows.
And we've had somebody give us
it's the same person who keeps making the connections with these obscure numbers. Yeah. Although I did rather well on 147, I have to say. He says, I've been thinking about a meaning for the number 149. Mm-hmm. Earth's land, the land of the planet, is 100, we'll take his word for this, is 149 million square kilometres, or about 29% of the Earth's surface. Right.
Well,
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you again for giving us
These things are so fascinating, actually. I mean, I can't even imagine 149 million square kilometres, but that apparently is what it is, 149. And of course, far more important than that is that Easter has happened. It flies past Easter somehow, doesn't it? If you're not careful. And that's why I think it's so important to have the week leading up to Easter with all its sadnesses and problems and thought. Otherwise it's just bunnies and chocolate, and you try and find Jesus in the middle of all that. But
Jesus was made of chocolate, wasn't he? And he was wrapped in shiny paper. To be honest, I'll be honest with you, as the years have gone by, it's become more and more difficult for me to get a grip on Easter, because it means so much in the centre of who I am and what I think and believe and all that. When it comes to it, I kind of shoulder it aside because it's too much to think about. But
that's
right
why I
in
think
the
it's
heart
good
of
to have
me,
that lead up.
It is, right in the heart of me. It is probably the festival of the year.
Yeah, somebody said to me that celebrating the birth of Jesus is one thing, but it kind of belongs to everyone somehow. There's some sort of celebration, but Easter belongs to Christians. And I was thinking about that, and then I was thinking about Jerusalem and about how it all happened in Jerusalem, and yet how Jerusalem is the centre for the Jews and the centre for Islam, and how extraordinary that is, all those tensions. And it's been pretty tense this year. In the centre of Jerusalem, hasn't it?
The strange contrast with that is that when we were there, on the one occasion we were there, we were amazed at how well people got on. But that was on, I suppose, a slightly different level. But there are some tensions there that we can't begin to understand. Maybe people in Northern Ireland can understand them more, I don't know. But I
was interested listening to somebody who lives in Poland saying, you will never understand in the UK what it is to have been occupied. And it's true. I mean, we can go back to Anglo-Saxons and Romans, but we can't touch base with that. But
not
so,
really.
No. So I mean, no, we're never going to really understand that, and we're never going to really be able to actually understand Easter, understand what it was
but
on
you
that
love
first
it, don't
day.
you? And you did an Easter garden this year, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't do?
No.
Oh, no, you didn't.
No.
Because tell everyone why.
I've always done an Easter garden, and a lot of that was to do with wanting our children to a lot of it's to do with the fact I enjoyed doing it, but also I wanted our children to have something special on Easter Day that wasn't to do with how much chocolate you got. And so I always created an Easter garden, and I had Mary from the Nativity kneeling down by what I created was the cave, and I went out early in the morning on Easter Sunday morning, and it was actually a beautiful April morning, and our gardener's got lots of daffodils, lots of bulbs, lots of little flowers. And I went out there thinking I would pick some things to make a garden. And I thought, this is it. This is my Easter garden this morning. I am standing in the early hours, as dawn came up, standing there.
And this is our first Easter in this beautiful garden.
It is. And I was thinking of Mary, and that it was early morning. And I don't know exactly whether there's dew on the grass in quite the same way, but it was early morning, and yet for her, not a good morning. It was a terrible morning. It was a shocking, horrible thing that she thought she'd lost everything.
The strangest moment in the New Testament, perhaps, where suddenly he's there and she doesn't recognise him, Jesus, and
she hasn't seen an angel like, Peter and John. As far as she's concerned, where the heck have you taken him? She says to the gardener, where have you?
She's just
Tell
talking about
me.
his body, isn't she?
Yes, but she has no idea that anything incredible has happened.
We heard a talk on the Sunday, Easter Sunday, which made the very interesting point, which I've not thought about, I expect others have, but about the fact that he came looking for her first, as far as we know. That the thought was, I will go and be with Mary before anybody else.
Yeah.
And there she is, and she half opens her tear-blurred eyes and thinks it's some gardener or something, and says, well, what have you done with them? And suddenly he says her name, and she thinks it's him. And he's here to see me.
Yeah, he's come to look for her. So we tend to think of it the other way round, don't we? But she wasn't she was looking for his body, as you say, but she wasn't looking
for the risen Jesus.
Jesus. No. Even if she'd kind of tried to believe it, reality had got in the way for her.
And we live in a Christian culture that says we pursue God. We do things to make God happen. We do things to make it right. And actually, those moments when you are pursued are more important, perhaps, than any other, because then you really want it. I don't know. We've often talked about the Lewis poem on here, which is called No Beauty. The title's gone from my head.
Doesn't matter. No beauty I pursue, isn't it? No beauty greater than knowing what Jesus did for us. That's what that line actually means. But it also talks about, because Lewis had difficulty finding Jesus, everyone thinks he had a sort of ease of access, but because he's given so many of us
so many other people help.
Yes, absolutely.
But he's saying in this particular poem that he searched everywhere, and it's almost impossible to find Jesus. In the end, he realizes that it isn't that he should pursue him, because all you get is, as he puts it, a faint gleam, a faint white gleam, or you enjoy a sunset, all of which are fine, but through poetry or music or whatever. But that in the end, this is for him, at communion, he was nearer to actually experiencing the physical presence of Jesus than at any other time, because the man who did it comes to find you at communion, and he says, here I am again, don't forget me, this is my body, this is my blood, I worked very hard to do this, please don't forget me. And he's come to see us and bring us, let us know we're important.
And I love that, and you know that I mean, for both of us, communion has always meant an awful lot. But I don't think everybody. I mean, it's not wrong to seek him, to try to be somewhere where he can meet us.
No, of course.
And I was, I love this person, Anne Lamott's writing, the dreadlocked American that we come back to many times, simply because she has a freedom that I yearn for in the way that she expresses things. And she's actually, in the piece that I'm about to read, she's speaking to a lot of young people who have just graduated, and she's talking to them about the importance of staying real and staying true to themselves, which I think is often the case in these talks. But she says, it might help if I go ahead and tell you what I think is the truth of your spiritual identity. Actually, I don't have a clue. Her point being that it's not going to be her who knows the answer. It's for them to find where they where they comfortably know that they are loved. She says, I do know you're not what you look like, or how much you weigh, or how you did at school, or whether you start a job soon. Spirit isn't what you do, it's, well, again, I actually don't know, she says. But she does say, but I know, and I love this bit, you find it best when you're not doing much. When you're in nature, when you're very quiet, or paradoxically listening to music. I know you can feel it and hear it in the music you love, in the bass line, in the harmonies, in the silence between notes. Whether you're listening to Chopin or Eminem, to Neil Young or Bach, you close your eyes, and this bit I love, and feel the divine spark concentrated in you like a little Dr. Seuss firefly. It flickers with life and relief, like an American, she's American of course, like an American in a foreign country who suddenly hears someone speaking English. And I think what she means is suddenly you're at home. There's something that makes you feel you belong. She says, we see the Spirit made visible when people are kind to one another. It's magic to see Spirit, largely because it's so rare, and you mostly see the masks and holograms that culture presents as real. You see how you're doing in the world's eyes, or your family's, or worst of all yours, or in the eyes of people doing better than you, much better than you. But you're not bank accounts or ambition. You're not the cold clay lump you leave behind when you die. You're not your collection of walking personality disorders. You are spirit, you are love, even though it's hard to believe that sometimes. You are free. You're here to love and be loved freely. I don't know how you respond to that, but I thought...
I think she's a wonderful writer for a start.
Yeah.
And she is truly free, and all of those things are absolutely true. What I did think while you were reading it was about a different kind of thing, and this may be something to do with what Lewis was talking about. Our old friend Hugo Green, who was a broadcaster and
a rabbi.
And I remember when I went to interview him, and he talked about his experience in one of the
he was in
Auschwitz, and he was in the builder's yard. And one day he got a little space he built with pieces of wood, so he could be there without anyone knowing he wasn't working and could do what he wanted. And one day in this space, he wasn't much for the otherness of God, although he talked about it. But on this occasion, he said, I just wept and wept and wept for lost Judaism. And he said all the bits of prayers he could remember and all the things that made up Judaism, and just wept and cried out to God to somehow bring things back again and for everything to be all right. And I thought today, when I was feeling very ill and sitting on the bed, and I was saying
you are feeling better now, aren't you? I mean, I don't want people to think you're
No, I'm fine.
terribly
I'm
ill.
fine. I was saying to Jesus, I can't almost remember the exact words. I was saying, I just want you. I don't want any evidence of you or signs of you or marks you've left behind. I want you. So in whatever way you want to come to me, and if you have anything small I can do for you, whatever it is, I want there to be an us in some way. And for me at the moment, that's really important. But we've heard of people coming to Jesus through so many different ways, and as she says, appreciating him in so many different ways.
Well, I don't think she's talking about appreciating. I think she's talking about recognizing him. That's what I think she's talking about. So when Mary looked at Jesus, when he called her name, she recognized him. And I think what Anne Lamott was trying to talk about was that there are moments when you are at home, you are suddenly next to him, and they take you by surprise, just as Jesus took Mary by surprise that morning, because suddenly something sparks in you, like this firefly that she was talking about, and it is as real as it could possibly be. the risen Jesus is real in you. But you can't hold on to it any more than Mary was able to hold on to Jesus that morning, or the disciples later on when he ascended. These are, and if you try too hard, then it starts becoming unreal.
Or if you tell lies to yourself, or if
Yes.
you make things up.
Yeah.
And that's the other side of the coin. That Lewis says, hunting in these immeasurable forests, if you hunt too hard, you will find things that are inspiring and are part of what Jesus is, and you will have a sense of his presence. I don't know, I'm a little lost in the middle of all those arguments at the moment.
I know. But I suppose the thing that, the rest of them, let's be honest, some of them saw an angel that morning, and some of them saw that the grave clothes were still there, but Jesus wasn't. Well, they went back to tell the others about it, but they didn't stay there. The thing about Mary was she didn't really have any hope at that moment, but she was there because she couldn't think of anywhere else that she wanted to be. But she was in the last place where she knew he had been. Yeah. And I think sometimes it may be you go to a cathedral and sit quietly, or it may be you go somewhere and you can't recreate something, you can't make something happen, but you can be lost in it and be somewhere where you can talk to him again. Maybe you've stopped talking. Maybe you've stopped shouting. Maybe you've stopped being angry with God. You've left him out of the picture, and just being there, even if it's a bit hopeless. Do you think that's true?
Yes, I do. But in the end, I think if you are truthful with yourself, you can't go wrong. If you feel the presence of God, or you sense the presence of God, and it's real, then it's real. But we do suffer a bit, unfortunately, and we always reach the suffering bit of this. We do suffer a little bit from two extremes. One is people talking about speaking to Jesus over the marmalade at breakfast, and the other is finding him in a flower, but only in a flower.
That isn't what I'm talking about.
No,
that was not what I was talking about.
I know.
Well, it wasn't.
I know.
I'm
saying the two extremes are seem to be ever present.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I suppose I just know that we don't meet Jesus standing there in front of us, alive, but with the wounds in his hands and his feet. The proof of what he's been through, the proof of who he is. So,
no, we don't.
So it's not easy, is it, to and that's why I think we need to trust those moments when it's so real, and hang on to those moments until the next moment.
They've changed my life. I agree with that absolutely. And
in the meantime, try and be as kind as we can be, walk as humbly as we can be, etc., etc.
Yeah, and we can also, though, look at things that happened to Jesus, and that he said. I was thinking today how much I'd like to read the Gospels, which is a ridiculous thing. I've read them all, obviously, many, many times. But I thought I really need to just go back and see what he said and what happened. And it's amazing how just thinking that introduces new little interesting niggles of ideas that might bring you to a truth that is really...
It always strikes me how practical the Gospels are. Everybody who talks, who doesn't know much about what we believe, always assumes that it's very airy-fairy and that it's very sort of wafty spirituality. When you read the Gospels, it's so not. I mean, you don't have all the way of speaking that we would have now, but Jesus just really, really tired. He gets in a boat so he can get away from everybody, and there's the crowd the other side. And we all know how that actually feels when there's that one more phone call, or that one more person, or that one more thing, and you think, can't be something or other. But then you have to kind of get on with it. So I don't know. I think, I always think that. And even when Jesus comes back, I mean, we know, don't we, that you know, they couldn't really trust that he was back until he ate some fish.
That's right, yeah.
So
yes, he tried a couple of things, and finally, when he all right, give me a bit of fish.
Yes, that's
and
right.
Suddenly they were like, that's him. Look at him, he's eating his fish. Yeah, I know. And then, almost immediately after that, says he opened their minds.
Yeah.
And that's what is needed, isn't it? Is to say, we value every instance of contact with anything that brings us closer to him. But let's open our minds and see what can happen. Like the road to Emmaus, you know. Let's see if our hearts can burn again like they did before.
Yes, but we can't make them. That's why I'm talking about these fireflies, about these moments when it happens. And we just need to keep being open to that, as you say. But not. I see what you see when you said about the flowers. I mean, if you go hunting for meaning, very rarely do we find it. But if it ambushes us,
absolutely, I think that's really the right word. When he comes looking for us, and ambushes us, it's a time to really listen and feel things.
Yeah. We did have. Oh Lord, sorry. There we are. Yeah, we just thought we'd finish. We have this. And we don't usually mention names, but we have this lovely friend in Sweden, don't we, called Andreas, who sent us a prayer. And I know some people listening will know Andreas and Anna, so that's why I said it. And they sent us this Easter prayer. You're going to read it. It just summed everything up.
We'd love to see Andreas and Anna, wouldn't it? Yes, this is it. We are again summoned to outrageously sorry, it's my eyesight. We are again summoned to courageously and perhaps outrageously and gently hold life in the midst of death, peace in the midst of violence, and hopeful praise in the midst of despair. We might also
outrageously,
yes,
and gently,
and perhaps violently. All I would say, Andreas, is that
maybe peacefully.
All I would say, Andreas, is that I love your prayer, and I love the opposites. And I wait with great interest to find what he next says when he approaches me and you and Bridget and all the people we love.
Yes, and obviously, you know, we love to hear from you about your experience this Easter, or since, or before, or whatever. So thank you, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, bye-bye.